Today, we obviously having a little fun here, but we're talking about something that's really impacted so many lives here in the coastal empire and the low country. We're talking about autism. 1 in 45 American kids now diagnosed with the autism spectrum disorder, somewhere on that spectrum, that is. Many times it impairs social interaction, verbal, even nonverbal communication, and it restricts or even causes repetitive behavior. Parents will usually notice signs of autism spectrum during the first 2 years of life. And today, wonderful lady that we are so thrilled to have, local activist, local advocate, I guess might be a better way to put it, and autism mom. Yes, Kim Spencer is with us. Not only is she the co-founder and author of the Thinking Moms Revolution, she's just been really impactful on the autism, I guess, community here in Savannah. Thrilled to have you here. Your son, of course, diagnosed 13 years ago with autism.
Yes.
Tell us about Patrick.
So he's now 16 and doing really well, but that's been after years and years and years of alternative medicine treatments and therapy to get him where he is today in 10th grade. We noticed when he was probably about 2 that he was superhuman strong. He wasn't potty training or talking.
Wow.
And that we just had some concerns. He slept 4 hours a day at nap time, which for me is lucky. A lot of kids with autism don't sleep at all. He slept too much. He waved toys in front of his eyes. He sat in the corner looking at books upside down. He was obsessed with movies. And so at about almost age 3, a neighbor said, she had been a speech therapist in a past life before she was a mommy. And she said at 2 years old you should put 2 words together, and at 3 years old you should put 3 words together. And this is a minimum rule, a very minimum rule for that they go by in speech therapy. I now know it can be so different. My daughter, when she was 18 months old, she was speaking to me in paragraphs. But Patrick was almost 3 and still had not put 2 words together. So at that point, my family, who was pretty clueless, he was a first grandchild, had no really idea what was going on. But a speech therapist immediately diagnosed him in about 20 minutes with pervasive developmental disorder, which is a form of autism.
And that impact?
Yeah, I went home, I said, how dare you label my baby? And I, just literally went home, and I was 5 months pregnant at the time. I had no idea what this all meant. But that night when I couldn't sleep, I got up and Googled it and found exactly everything that described my son and his issues on a website, and also found out about really quickly some things I could do to try to get him back. And so I set off that night just on the path to get him back, and it's working. It's working.
And now for parents that are watching, since this isn't anything easy for parents to go through, what gave you the strength to come forward and share this with parents, share your experience?
Well, this just doesn't have to happen. I think it's very preventable, and I think there's a lot you can do about it if it does happen. It's just that mainstream medicine right now isn't keeping up with the parents. Parents are coming around with these stories of what happened to their child and what they're doing to get them better, but mainstream has just not got that much to offer at this moment. So now there's just this underground network of mothers and parents and therapists and doctors that are getting together and saying, all right, well, we're gonna fix this, and we can share it. And I don't want this to happen to any other child. I feel like it's my life's mission to make sure that people know that they are informed about what's going on with this, but also to be able to have a place to go and to get help if it does happen to their child, and so that they can start on the path of getting them back too. It's definitely treatable, and there's lots and lots of ways to get kids back.
Get them back almost to normal lives.
Almost, I mean, it's not a foolproof plan. It's different for every kid, but there's so much that can be done.
Now, you and I have talked about this before. There's a lot of debate about whether or not vaccines are linked to the autism spectrum. Guys, are we going to have this soundbite? Okay, awesome. This is what Patrick's doctor had to say about autism and vaccinations.
Receiving a second one at a month of age, then receiving 3 of them at 2, 4, and 6 months of age. All of them contain a fair amount of thimerosal, again, compared to their body weight. Yes, I truly believe that that was enough insult to this infant's brain that with time, this is how it expressed as an autistic state.
I mean, that's just incredibly powerful.
Absolutely.
We do have to point out now that was, of course, Dr. Ramos, Tina Tinus, Shaw interviewed him about
2008.
2008, when Patrick was only 8 years old. The statements are still pretty controversial, but it's each family building that relationship with their pediatricians. Now, there are a lot of scientific journals that say that autism and vaccination, there is no link between the two of them. In fact, the Journal of Autism and Developmental Disorders have done some pretty extensive research, says there is no link. We are not endorsing either side of this controversy. We are simply opening up the doors to conversation. I mean, Kim, for you, there is no doubt.
Absolutely. I've spoken to enough families over the years and 12 years of advocating and being in the world of activism in this subject. You know, the parents are telling the stories. The parents have seen what they've seen. And, you know, I've interviewed so many parents and talked to them about getting their children back, and there's so much to be said about we maybe shouldn't even be calling it autism, because autism is a behavioral disorder. But what are the medical issues that the child has that are causing these behaviors? I mean, for Patrick, you know, inflammation. He has pathogens in his body that his immune system can't handle. He has food allergies. He has different medical issues that when we address the medical issues, the autistic behaviors lessen. So, you know, to approach this as an immune system and a gut and a brain, you know, break in activity and development, things can change. And so when you talk about what happens with vaccines or what is happening with our environment and how our 54% of our kids are chronically ill, one in, what's the latest number, 45 are on the autism spectrum. Predictions say that by 2032, 1 in 2 children will have autism. We need to start really paying attention to what the parents are saying. And yes, you know, a family background of autoimmune disease. My mother has lupus. My husband's mother has epilepsy. We were really healthy, but this added up to a child that was born with a challenged immune system, and no one asked that question. So when his immune system was challenged, you know, was already a little bit broken, and then you try to challenge it with vaccines and bad food and, you know, whatever's in the air and the water and the environment that's falling apart right now. You know, we just added up to the perfect storm of brain injury and inflammation and just all these things that made it so that he couldn't translate the world around him.
Absolutely. So I guess your message to parents right now is educate yourself.
Absolutely. That's all we're here to say is just, you know, you do so much research when you're having a baby. You know tons about car seats and you know tons about different things that surround around having your first child. But at this point, let's please just do our own homework. You know, your informed consent, your own education. I wish I had done my own homework, and I wouldn't be in this position. And all these parents that are advocating for the same idea. We weren't anti-vaccine. There's no anti-vaccine message here. We all vaccinated our children, and so now we just want other parents to do your homework. I don't care what your choice is. Don't tell me what your choice is, probably, if you choose to do it, because I might worry about your kid. But you know, at least educate yourself so that in the event that something happens, you know what has gone on here. You have a background. You have made an informed choice. Inform yourself. Don't just trust your doctor. It's your baby. No, they're not going to take care of your baby. If something bad happens, you're going to have to do it. And we've gotten Patrick back to the tune of $750,000. That's what it cost us out of pocket.
But
my gosh.
But you've got him almost 100.
Yes, but nobody was going to pay for that. Insurance wasn't going to pay for that.
Honey.
It's your job to
educate
take care of that kid if something bad happens. So do your homework.
All right, so we're going to have to cut this one a little bit short, but Kim, you're going to stick around with us. We'll do some Facebook Live after the show.
Absolutely.
So if you have any questions for Kim about Patrick, about the autism spectrum, frankly, about vaccinations and how they've impacted her family, send us your questions. You can obviously go to our Facebook page, The Bridge WSAV. You can tweet us at The Bridge WSAV, or you can email us to thebridge@wsav.com.